Hey, what's up you guys, it's your boy Drew here back again with another video for all you American soccer fans out there. And in this video, as you could tell, we're going to talk about the official Gold Cup roster that Greg Berhalter has announced today. Well, mostly really late last night. Whatever. This is his official lineup. And the Gold Cup's only like a week and a half away, so it's nearly here. So prepare yourselves, and the best way to prepare yourself to keep up to date with all this Gold Cup content is that little red bar down below, that subscribe button. Yeah, go on and click that. And while you're down there, click that like button as well, because those two little button clicks will help this channel grow. And then in part, which is part of this channel's goal, is to help American soccer grow more. So when you click that, you're gonna be part of the change. So think about it. All right. We got a lot to talk about here. You know, I don't want this video to go too long. I don't want it to be like an over 20-minute video. But I do have a lot to talk about. I want to talk about most of the players who were called up, some players who were not called up. I want to give you guys my input on that, on those reactions there. And I also want to then switch over to the FIFA lineup, because I want to show you guys how I think Greg Berhalter is going to want to line up his crew for this Gold Cup, for the most part. And then I'm going to show you guys how I think the ideal lineup should look like. So without further ado, let's get into it. So here it is in all its glory, if you want to call it that. The USA's roster for this Gold Cup. Let's start off with our goalkeepers. We got Zach Steffen, my boy, Sean Johnson, Tyler Miller. On to defenders, Tyler Adams, Omar Gonzalez, Nick Lima, Aaron Long, Daniel Lovitz, Matt Miazga, Tim Ream, and Walker Zimmerman. Midfield, Michael Bradley, Dwayne Holmes, Weston McKennie, Christian Pulisic, Christian Roldan, and Will Trapp. And then we got my favorite player, LOLJK, Josie Altidore, Paul Arriola, Tyler Boyd, Jonathan Lewis, Jordan Morris, and Yazzie Zardes. So, there it is. In all its glory, like I said. Now, I want to bring up first the players who have been called up. I want to give you guys my input. For goalkeepers, I'm totally fine. As long as Brad Guzan was not called up, I'm totally fine. Because I knew if Brad Guzan was called up, I feel like Greg Berhalter, like if Zach Steffen has one slip up, Brad Guzan will probably replace him for the rest of the Gold Cup. Because I just feel like that's how USA managers think. Like, you know, let's just stick with the senior players and we're fine. Right? Let's just stick with the oldies but goodies. We'll stick with them. Whatever. So for the goalkeepers, Zach Steffen, obviously the best goalkeeper for USA right now. No contest. Anyone who says otherwise, yeah, I don't know what the heck you're talking about. He's going to Man City, so obviously he's the first choice goalkeeper. Greg Berhalter said that exact same quote himself. Sean Johnson, I think he's pretty good. Tyler Miller as well, he's having a pretty good season. So the goalkeepers, I'm happy with. Now defenders, you know, this could be very controversial for a lot of people because we have players like Omar Gonzalez in here, and we have players like Tim Ream. You know, a lot of people are not too fond of Tim Ream. But the reason I think he was called up is to provide some more left back coverage, because I'm pretty sure Greg Berhalter is going to want to stick with the 4 at the back. I know they played with 3 at the back against Jamaica and it didn't turn out well. So with the 4 at the back, he's going to want to obviously have Tim Ream either in the center back, but mostly I think Tim Ream was only here in this lineup to give cover to the left back position, which is probably going to be occupied mostly by Daniel Lovitz. And as you can see, well, yeah, we'll get to the Anthony Robinson in a second. So that's it for the defenders. Obviously, Omar Gonzalez, from what I saw, he's having a pretty decent season in Liga MX right now. So I guess we'll give him another chance. Why not, right? He's provided and he's given so much to us, but he's also given us so much bad memories as well. So it's kind of hard to forget for me and a lot of you American soccer fans out there, because I know I see your comments talking about Omar Gonzalez. And in the game against Jamaica, he was probably the best defender that we had, besides like Tim Ream and who was Matt Miazga. For Matt Miazga had a pretty bad game, as well as Tim Ream. And I think the most solid defender back there was Omar Gonzalez. So I guess he kind of earned his place. Whatever, let's move on. Aaron Long, obviously I'm really happy he got called up. There was no surprise he was not going to be called up. Him and Walker Zimmerman both are both best defenders right now in MLS. No contest. Don't try to argue that. At least 2 of the best American defenders in MLS, so I'll put it that way. Now for midfield, let's see, we got Michael Bradley. Like I said in my earlier video predicting who was going to be, or selecting my own roster for this Gold Cup, I also chose Michael Bradley just because, like, I know a lot of people don't like him right now, and I myself am not the biggest fan of Michael Bradley, because I just feel like he's kind of run his course. but I still feel like he's got some legs. I still feel like he's got some creativity in him. He's having a pretty decent season right now with Toronto FC, so why not call him up? For that veteran kind of mentality, that leadership that this midfield is desperately needing. Like you saw in the Jamaica game, like you saw in my Jamaican USA reaction video how we lost. I said the big reason we lost was because of our out of whack midfield. And if we have someone like Michael Bradley trying to hold the midfield together, trying to keep everyone in check, keep all these young dudes in line, I think we'll do a pretty decent job solidifying that midfield for the rest of the Gold Cup, especially if Michael Bradley's either on the bench or on the field himself. But I'm pretty sure Greg Berhalter's going to want to play Michael Bradley as many games as he possibly can. On to Dwayne Holmes, a player I really forgot to talk about in yesterday's video when I talked about the Jamaican USA game, because I think the midfield was dead. The attacking quality was dead. There was no real build-up, no real attacking. But once Dwayne Holmes came on for like the 20-25 minutes he was on the pitch, he really kind of he showed like a lot of charisma, I guess you can say. He was really lighting up. He showed a lot of like spark. I was like, okay, this guy kind of impressed me. He was probably the best player on that pitch the second he came on. Like that says a lot. There was players who played the whole game, and Dwayne Holmes was a player who kind of really shined the brightest in that midfield and in the whole lineup overall. So I'm really excited to see more of Dwayne Holmes. From what I know, he can play as an attacking midfielder and as a right wing, so that's a good coverage to have another player on the wings. So I hope he does really well. We're gonna have to see how he does. Weston McKennie and Pulisic really speak for themselves. Christian Roldan, I think he had a pretty bad game, but I still think he's pretty solid when he's paired up with a good partner. And that good partner is obviously not Will Trapp. A lot of people made Will Trapp like okay, here it is, right? Here it is, plain and simple. He sucked, had a terrible game, gave a lot of balls away. Really had no good key passes. He was really, really bad. He wasn't good as a center defensive midfield, not good at cut passing lanes. He was terrible. Absolutely terrible. And I really believe, and I'm not the only one who thinks this, I really believe Greg Berhalter stuck with Will Trapp to come on to this lineup or this roster is because of that Columbus Crew bond that they have. And I feel like the same way with Yazzie Zardes. But Yazzie Zardes kind of earns his own place. Will Trapp really did not earn a place, especially coming off the back of that terrible game against Jamaica yesterday. So I really don't know why Will Trapp's on there. I would replace him more with maybe someone like Darlington Nagbe or just literally anybody else. So now moving on to the forwards, we got, of course, Jozy Altidore called up here, and a lot of people really are kind of divisive with Jozy Altidore. A lot of people kind of are over him. They think he's not really good enough for the national team anymore. Like they're done with him, despite how good he's been right now for Toronto FC and mostly at club level in MLS. They're kind of over it. But then on the other side of the argument, there's people who are like, he's one of our top leading goal scorers of all time, so why not have him on here? He did really well in the last time we won the Gold Cup, which was we're actually the current champions. So why not call him up? He's actually probably the best striker we have. But I can see both sides. For me, as many of you guys know, if you're subscribed for a long time, which if you're not, totally subscribe. I'm not the biggest Jozy Altidore fan. He's never really impressed me in a really major competition besides that last Gold Cup. I just think maybe we can look elsewhere for better strikers. And one of those good strikers, I think, Jordan Morris. He had a pretty good start to the season with Seattle Sounders this year. I know he's coming off the back of a pretty bad injury, but I think he's finding his form again. He's finding his way in his own professional career. So I'm really excited to see how he will do, and I hope he gets to feature in a lot of games in this Gold Cup, whether it's replacing Altidore off the bench or even pairing up with Altidore up front. Anybody else? Tyler Boyd, I kind of am excited to see how he does. Debuting for the national team, for the USA national team, that is, not New Zealand anymore. And if you guys don't know, he switched over from representing New Zealand to now representing the US. So it's really good. Hopefully, he can actually have some good coverage on the wings that we desperately need, especially on the left-hand side. Jonathan Lewis and Yazzie Zardes, and Paul Arriola as well. I don't mind being there at all. I think they're pretty good. So now, let's move on to the players who were not called up that people are really in a fissy or tussle about. That people are just mad about it. Let's talk about it. Obviously, let's get the big one out of the way. Josh Sargent. I thought he had a pretty decent game against Jamaica. I think he was really unlucky to not have any good support, any good balls to go off of, from the terrible midfield that we had. he really he had nothing to work with. You know, he wasn't getting the right balls in. He was pretty man marked pretty well. I thought he impressed me. Like he had a pretty decent game for a young kid. Why not? And the big controversy right now with Josh Sargent with American soccer fans is why take him away from the under-20 World Cup? Why take him away from those players who are trying to win that World Cup when he's actually a pretty good quality striker, especially for the under-20 status? Why not take him away? Or why take him away and then not call him up for the senior team of the Gold Cup? Like, it just makes no sense. Now he's not in either competition. He can't. The Gold Cup does not have that. You know, you can bring in new players and switch players out after the group stages. They don't have that shit anymore. And for the World Cup, they definitely don't have that. Once their lineups are set, the rosters are set. That's it. So I really don't know why Josh Sargent wasn't at least given a chance as a backup striker. I would have replaced Josh Sargent. I would have replaced Zardes with Josh Sargent. Like, why not? I mean, he's younger. He's showing a lot of potential. He's showing he really wants his place, fight for his place in the lineup. And I really think it was unfair if Greg Berhalter just based Josh Sargent's selection in this roster just based off that game against Jamaica. I think that was pretty unfair. I mean, there's a reason he called him off out of the U20 World Cup and into this the senior team squad. It makes no sense. Like, it really makes no sense. Whatever. I mean, we can't change it now. So let's go on maybe now to Darlington Nagbe, a player who really surprised many that was not called up. I thought it was a player who really was kind of set in stone to be called up for this roster because, you know, I think he's a pretty dynamic, pretty skillful player in the midfield. He's good at going back. He's good at going up front. But from what I see in his stats, like I don't follow Atlanta United too much, but from what I see this season, he's played 14 games. He's played 14 games, scored 0 goals, and only assisted 1 goal. And from what I know, he's not really having the best season right now in MLS. So I'm guessing it kind of makes sense as to why he wasn't called up. And as for players like Ethan Horvath, Jonathan Brooks, DeAndre Yedlin, Sebastian Lletget, players who I see a lot of people commenting and wondering where they're at, why aren't they called up? For the most part, they're actually all injured, so that's why they're not called up. Obviously, if they were, I think all of those players would have been called up. Horvath, Yedlin, Brooks, and Lletget would definitely be in this roster, if not due to the injuries they're trying to heal from right now. So we'll be fighting for them, don't worry. Who else are we missing? I feel like we're missing somebody else. Oh yeah, Anthony Robinson. I said I'd come back to this dude. Anthony Robinson, I think he had a pretty decent game. Maybe not the best game against Jamaica. I mean, but I still think he was a good young player to bring in and try to help him build that senior team experience even more. He's been called up quite a few times on the Greg Berhalter now, so why not continue that and make him a backup to Daniel Lovitz instead of Tim Ream? Like, I just don't understand. If you want to stick with Daniel Lovitz, stick with Daniel Lovitz. Okay, make him be the starter left back. But then when this dude gets fucking tired, bring on Anthony Robinson. It just makes no fucking sense. That's it though. For the most part, out of 10 on satisfaction on this roster, I'd give it a strong 7. You know, I think it's a pretty 7 out of 10. If we had players like Brooks, DeAndre Yedlin, Lletget, obviously I'd give it like an 8 or almost a 9. But will we ever get a 10 out of 10? Maybe not right now. But in the coming years, the way our youth are looking, we definitely could be a 10 out of 10 one day. So now let's get on to the FIFA format of this video and show you guys how I think Greg Berhalter's most likely going to line up this roster. Okay, this is the lineup that I think Greg Berhalter is going to go into this Gold Cup using. I went with this 4-3-3 formation just based off the fact that this was the most common formation Greg Berhalter has used since he's taken over the national team job. Now let me explain the players and why I think Greg Berhalter is going to want to choose them. Obviously, Greg Berhalter probably feels the most comfortable with Jozy Altidore up front as their main striker in here, waiting for crosses and balls to come into him so he can just try to tap them in or probably miss or not get injured, which hopefully he doesn't, which there's a 75% chance he will. Shots fired. I don't hate Altidore. I think he's actually a really cool dude, but he's just, like I say, he's just not my favorite striker right now. I think we can go in other directions, like Josh Sargent. All right, here we go. Tyler Boyd, obviously a newcomer in this lineup, in this whole national team. I think he's probably one of the best left wingers we can offer right now. Obviously, he's got no face because FIFA has not updated his nationality yet. Whatever. I'm excited to see how he plays, and if he does well in the first game, I think Greg Berhalter is going to want to stick with him in the left flank. Then we got either Paul Arriola or Jonathan Lewis on this right side. I think you can go either way, because Jonathan Lewis can also play on the right side. So I think Paul Arriola or Jonathan Lewis will alternate between Greg Berhalter, whatever. The midfield is kind of decent, and we got obviously Michael Bradley, another player who I think Greg Berhalter is going to feel comfortable starting almost every game if he can, as their center defensive midfielder to, like I said, to hold that defense together. That's the midfield together. Then we got Christian Pulisic out of position here in the center midfield position, which he's more obviously a better player when he's on the flanks. Obviously, right or left flank works for him. And alongside him, we got Weston McKennie. Probably staying back more than Pulisic. I think Pulisic will actually go up more than Weston McKennie. I think he'll probably just drop back and kind of give support around here or cover the wings, whatever he wants to do. Whatever. Then obviously 2 center backs, no argument there. No problem with that either for me. Aaron Long, Walker Zimmerman are 2 best defenders we have in this roster. No contest. Daniel Levitt's a pretty good left back as well to have there. And of course, the biggest disappointment right here is having poor Tyler Adams, or one of our most creative center midfielders, in the right flank as a right back. Like, why, dude? But I know Greg Berhalter is going to use him here because Tyler Adams was listed as a defender in this roster, so obviously it makes sense that he would use him there. Obviously, got my boy right here, my favorite USA soccer player right now, Zach Steffen. I don't know why. I just think this dude has cool charisma. Something about him that makes me like him a lot. Good character, whatever. And he's going to Man City, so that's a big thing and a big step up for American soccer players. So shout out to you, Zach Steffen. I know you're not watching this, but shout out to you, bro. Send us Zach Steffen if you can, guys. Why not? On Twitter or something. Who cares? Let him notice your boy Drew. Alright. And for the bench, I just kind of... This bench will probably just be switched around all the time. But for the most part, I think we'll have Zardes and Morris here. Morris can obviously provide more support on the flanks and as a center striker. Obviously, the golden boy here for Greg Berhalter, Will Trapp, Christian Roldan, Sean Johnson, Omar Gonzalez, and Tim Ream, obviously to back up Daniel Levitz, which preferably I wish it was Anthony Robinson, but whatever. And these are just the reserves down here. So that's the way I think Greg Berhalter is going to line up his team at this Gold Cup. But let me show you the way your boy Drew would actually line this team up. Here's the way I would like to line up in this Gold Cup. Obviously, a totally different formation than what I think Greg Berhalter is more comfortable using. Instead of the 4-3-3, I went with a 4-2-3-1. I just think at this position, this formation actually is a really good formation to have, a good solid formation to have, especially if you have a weak midfield. Because you have this big circumference here of the center attack midfielder, the 2 holding defensive midfielders, and these center backs in here. They can all pair up together to kind of break apart some good passes from the opponent's midfield and kind of get the ball back in the midfield and create from the midfield, which is really important to have in any team. So let me go through real quick. Obviously, right now, I chose the outdoor up here. Why not? Okay, let him start off, but then I put Jordan Morris. I did alternate between Morris or outdoor up front, leading the line. I think Morris has more pace to get in behind defenders than outdoor does, and Morris does have the strength to hold off defenders. Now for the 3 attacking players here, we got Tyler Boyd on the left flank, Christian Pulisic as a center attacking midfielder, and Paul Arriola on the right. Now originally I had Christian Pulisic here, and I had Weston McKennie up here, but then I figured, Weston McKennie is more of a defensive or like a holding midfielder rather than a bigger attacking midfielder. So it just kind of made sense to have Christian Pulisic play the attacking midfielder rather than dropping down deep in the midfield, because we want him to be up in the attacking line, not down deep trying to get the ball back in the midfield. So that pretty wraps up the attacking line. Now for defense, we got 2 center defensive midfielders in Weston McKennie and Tyler Adams, both really good young prospects for the USA. And if you wanted to switch McKennie out for Bradley, I wouldn't be opposed. Why not? If you want to have Bradley kind of teach Adams some good... I mean, Adams is pretty good himself. I think Adams can teach Bradley some stuff himself. Whatever. But, alternate Bradley with McKennie or McKennie and Adams. Doesn't matter for me. Why not? Then we got, of course, the back line of Daniel Levitz, Aaron Long, Walker Zimmerman, and Nick Lima, who I think is actually a pretty decent right back. I think we can just use him more. So why not use him in his natural position of right back and keep Adams in the midfield, which is what I know a lot of American soccer fans would like to see, including your boy Drew. Now for the bench, we got, like I said, Morris to back up outdoor, Jonathan Lewis to back up any of the right or left wings that we have in this lineup, Dwayne Holmes to back up Pulisic or the right flank as an attacking midfielder because he actually, like I said, he impressed me the way he played against Jamaica in the few minutes that he had to play in the game. So why not provide that flair as a backup? Obviously, Michael Bradley here, Matt Miazga, and Omar Gonzalez. Why not? And that's pretty much it. I put the Golden Boy right here in the reserves where he belongs, out of this lineup. So that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think about my lineup versus Greg Berhalter's lineup. Which lineup do you like better? And let me know how you guys feel about this whole roster overall. Who do you wish was not called up? Who do you wish was called up? Let me know all your thoughts down below. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the like button down below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for kicking with me. And I'll see you next time.